Hitler's atom bomb. In August 1939, Albert Einstein wrote to President Franklin D. Roosevelt, warning that it may become possible to set up a nuclear chain reaction in a large mass of uranium by which vast amounts of power and large quantities of new radium-like elements would be generated. And that it may become possible to set up a nuclear chain reaction in a large mass of uranium by which vast amounts of power and large quantities of new radium-like elements would be generated. The US was in a race to produce an atomic weapon, believing that the first country to do so would win the war. The Manhattan Project was predicated on terror, anxiety that the enemy had the bomb, or would have it before we could create it, said Robert Furman, an aide to General Leslie Groves and the chief of foreign intelligence for the Manhattan Project. The scientists knew this because a big number of them were German refugees who had studied under the Germans prior to the outbreak of the war. I think everyone was scared that we were wrong, and the Germans were ahead of us, said Manhattan Project physicist Leona Marshall-Libby. When the war broke out and Hitler lowered the boom, Germany led the civilized world of physics in every way. It was a terrifying period. The US administration was just as terrified as the rest of the world. Unless and until we had definite knowledge to the contrary, we had to presume that the best German scientists and engineers were working on an atomic program with the full support of their government and the complete power of German industry at their disposal, General Groves recalled. Any other assumption would have been erroneous and potentially dangerous, Norris 295. Werner Heisenberg was even considered being kidnapped in Switzerland in 1942, but the plan was never carried through. The US began the Alsos mission in 1943, a foreign intelligence mission aimed at determining the scope of Germany's nuclear program. The evidence was evident by 1944, the Germans had not even gotten close to building a bomb and had barely progressed to preliminary study. From July 3, 1945, to January 3, 1946, the Allies held 10 German scientists at Farm Hall, a bugged mansion near Gumster, England, following the German defeat. Some of them were actually involved in the project, such as Heisenberg, Kurt Deibner, and Karl von Weizsäcker, while others, such as Otto Hahn and Max von Laue, were simply suspected and later found to be uninvolved. Hearing that the United States had exploded an atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Heisenberg's skepticism confirmed in the minds of the Allies that the German effort was never close. It must have taken factories the size of the United States to generate that much uranium-235, screamed one German scientist.